All right, everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we're going to be talking about our account update for June 2025. This was a really interesting month for my account. We did a lot of, big upgrades, kind of getting ready for that Order 66 raid. I had a lot of challenges this month as well, though. I can't say that it wasn't a challenging month. I scored well enough in the raid. I scored 5 million points, which I was very happy with, but there's a lot of things that I'm beginning to see where I am really having to be careful how I spend resources, because I've got a lot of things kind of coming at the same time that we've got to be prepared for, got to get my mindset on, and I've got to think about the long-term goals of my account. And, not just with Mace Windu and these, Order 66 characters that are going to be farmable soon, but GL Hondo down the pipe and what's going to happen after him. I need to be thinking that far ahead, and so we're going to be kind of discussing that in today's account update. So I want to give a shout out to our channel members before we do any of that. I really cannot tell you guys how much I appreciate every single one of these guys, whether they are just on the council or they have been granted the rank of Wampa and Jedi Master. I really appreciate all of them. The support I get from them is just unreal, and to be able to say that I get to create Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes content in my basement is pretty friggin' cool. Even my wife, who makes fun of me so much, still is tells a lot of people that I make. She wants to make fun of me, but at the same time she secretly loves that I get to do this. So thank you guys again. Let's get in here. Let's talk about the account update for June 2025. All right, so let's go to our actual farm list here. So the first thing we did, we've got Ayla Sakura at Relic 7. And again, there's Ayla Sakura. She's now Relic 7. Again, driven by the raid. Wanted to make sure I had another Jedi Vanguard at Relic 7 to be able to compete in the raid there. So we did that. We also, moving down the list, took our Grand Moff Tarkin to Relic 9. We did that on our live stream when we were doing our Order 66 raid. So there's the Relic 9 for Grand Moff Tarkin. Again, it was expensive, but I think it's going to, obviously pay off down the line and me being able to score really well in the raid. Moving through, we did get our CX2 to Relic 9 as well. And that not only was a really good thing for the raid, but that also helped me get further in, what do I want to say here? It also helped me get further in the era battle. So I've been able to do the era battle twice now for the dark side clones, get to the Relic 9 tier. So that's 10 Gerda keypads, 10 Omicrons, 10 droid brains, and then of course, any of the other materials we're getting. So that felt really good. Really pleased with this. And again, I was already taking the, entire dark side clones. I was taking all of them to Relic 9 for not just the raid, but for Lord Vader's team. So it's nice to just get a little bit of a, as Egnards calls it, a rebate from those era battles. Then finally, we took the Chad batch to Relic 5. All the Chad batch here are Relic 5. We still have a lot of work to do on their mods. There's a lot to be desired there. We got a couple of them done, right? Crosshair's got a pretty good set. Batcher, we're looking pretty nice there. Actually got some good speed rolls on him. Wrecker, not really done anything mod-wise. And then Hunter, we've also gotten some decent mod rolls. So I feel pretty good with where some of these guys are. And again, they're all at Relic 5. I'm not willing to go much higher right now with everything else that I have coming. Their relics could very well change if, as we talked about yesterday with some of the Relic 9 splits that are happening, if that does get fixed, there's potential where I might need to increase relics here. We'll just have to wait and see how CG reacts to that happening and what I need to do here. But I'm kind of nervous because I'm really running out of mod materials. I've got some slicing materials, but I've also got, I've got, the dark side clones to still finish. I have Mace Windu. It's a challenge, and this is something that is going to be very, very interesting with my account moving forward, is how I handle this, because in the past I really haven't had to, because of the pacing that I'm moving now. I'm moving a lot faster through the game than I ever have been before, and so with that comes this responsibility that I might not be able to do. I used to be able to just unlock a character and slice all their mods up day one. Now I don't really have that ability because I've unlocked a lot of characters. I'm unlocking them faster and I have to upgrade their mods. And so now what I'm having to do is kind of create certain mod sets, for like Disguise Clone Trooper and, Scorch, and just kind of steal them from existing characters that maybe I'm not using as much. And it's such a hard thing for me to do because I don't like taking mods off of characters. That kind of goes against some of my philosophy, but at the same time, I have to be realistic that I truly don't know that I can keep up mod-wise, which that's just, again, well, maybe that's a whole other video to talk about some of the economies that just are not keeping up with the pace of the game. But I think we all know mods are a big problem. Even for someone like myself, it's not easy to keep up with the demand of characters and the need for not just the mod, mods themselves, but the slicing materials with them. It's a very, it's painful. It's very painful. So with that, though, we are now above 12.7 million galactic power. We're getting closer to 13, which is kind of crazy. This account continues to just surprise me. Very, very pleased with where we're at, and I feel really good about it. In regards to shards, right? I actually can't farm any character shards right now because the 2 dark side clones that are farmable, I already have at Relic, 7-star Relic 9. So we're waiting on Disguise Clone Trooper, we are waiting on Scorch, and then obviously going into Jedi Temple Guard and then Depa Balaba. So we will be kind of working through all of those things. That's going to be kind of the next farming stuff. Smee will be coming, and we'll have to figure out how that kind of fits into the resources that I have and where we're going to be going from there. One thing I did want to mention here before we, go talking about some of the other things of, what's coming down the road here. I do want to be very mindful of something that one of the constraints I am beginning to see is signal data. Not just, and you guys are like, Phil, you always complain about signal data, but what I'm really beginning to notice now is with me investing more and more in these Relic 7s, Relic 8s, and Relic 9s, I'm beginning to notice how I used to have a lot more signal data. I used to have a lot more available, and now I just don't. So this is something that I'm going to be very mindful of and very cognizant of even when I invest signal data. One of the things that I used to do a lot was with a character like Smee, who's Conquest, I would take this guy immediately to like Relic 7. But since his team isn't in the game yet, since he's not really around, maybe it's a character I go a little bit lighter on until I know more about where he fits. Maybe I don't spend any signal data on him until I know how he works. We're going to have to kind of play around with that, see how it's panning out. Because from a raid perspective, I think pirates are going to be a little bit more contingent on not just Captain Atano, but everybody else coming in. So I'm kind of, jury's still out there, but it is something that I have to be a little bit more mindful, where I used to have a lot more freedom to kind of take characters like Smee up right away. And I don't have that luxury because, truth be told, we are moving a lot faster through the game than really I ever have before. Some of that due to era battles, some of that just due to how I've managed my resources. So I want to at least broach that topic with, I need to be kind of careful with my signal data, which is why I didn't do more work in territory battles, because I knew I was going to have to spend it to get ready for this raid. Knew I had to spend it to just continue to progress in other aspects. And now with GL Hondo coming, where we already have a Relic 9 requirement for him, I also need to be mindful of my signal data, because it's not going to be cheap to get this guy. We're already seeing, there's a Relic 3, which is great, but Relic 9, Relic 7, Relic 6, we got to be prepared, right? We got to be prepared for the worst case scenario. Now, one thing I talked about in my video yesterday at the time of recording, talking about the Order 66 raid and the splits that are happening with, being able to score really well in the raid. One thing that you need to be kind of mindful of, and I think one area that I need to be somewhat careful of, is I can't just do every single Relic 9 character. I can't just do every single, I don't have the resources for that, right? Going to my Lord Vader, it's not like I have an infinite supply of Relic materials here, right? We still have, I've got a decent amount, but Relic 9s there, I don't have that many, and I'm going to need some for Hondo, I'm going to need some for other things, and so I still have a long ways to go here, right? And that kind of brings up this debate of where my account needs to head, of how hard, how much do I push for the Jedi Vanguard era battle? one of the things we're seeing in the game is the way era battles work. And the way that era battles work, very different than assault battles. Era battles are on a, we have this kind of timeline here. I'm going to pop it open. So the, whoops, went over the fat face there. So here's the timeline for era battles. And this is where we are. So we're on this marquee, this purple marquee. This is Etano. And then we're going to have 2 Pirate era battles, 2 Jedi Vanguard era battles, and a Darkside Clone era battle. Then we're going to have another Darkside Clone. We're going to get another marquee, get these era battles, Darkside Clone. Then we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In an 8-week span, we will only get Darkside Clones one more time before they are removed from rotation and will be subject to come back during special occasions and events. This is what I want to kind of finish off the account update with. With Darkside Clones, I already said I was going to go hard, and I feel very good about what I did here. But there's Mace Windu and Depa Billaba that are also capable of doing their era battle, getting to the Relic 9 tier. The thing with these era battles that's a lot harder comparative to the assault battles, especially if you're not spending day one, right? Like, I buy the episode pass, but it's not like I spent any other money towards Oppo and CX2, right? I didn't buy any of the other packs, nothing like that. So I've only got 2 of those era battles done. So I've gotten 10, I've gotten like a fourth of my Relic 9s returned to me, right? So, I mean, that's decent, but I'm also still going to go into Disguised Clone Trooper. I'm still going to go towards Scorch. So you don't, as Egnard said, it's a rebate. You're not going to get a physical return, right? And especially because we don't know how often it's going to come back. So even if you're someone who you're going to take them to Relic 9 but never hit their era battle, and you're going to try to justify it with the era battle, it's not like the assault battles where there's a legitimate time frame where down to, roughly give or take, depending on RNG, when you're going to get those back. With the era battles, it could be never, right? We don't know how often they mean by special events and occasions. Like, that could be, okay, May the 4th, the anniversary, Christmas time, or is it going to be once a year? Like, we don't know. And with that, I kind of need to be careful that I properly analyze era battles, that we put them in the context of, listen, if you're not going to be able to hit X amount of them, it's probably not worth going after and going crazy. I think another big side of that is raid application. Mace Windu, Depa Billaba are going to be good for the raid, but their split requires you to build Temple Guard. So while it's only 2 Relic 9s that are required to do the era battle to get the Relic 9 tier, right? The Relic 9 on Mace, Relic 9 Depa is beating that tier. You're still going to need another character for the raid at that point. Very similar to the Battle for Naboo situation, right? You invested in Padawan Obi-Wan and Master Qui-Gon for their assault battle, but you still needed a Relic 9 Queen Amidala to participate in the raid. So it's a very similar situation to that, except you don't know how many times this era battle is going to happen after it's off this initial schedule, right? And again, that initial schedule here, we don't know. What I'm waiting to see, what I'd love to see, is if they would give us another look, if they would give us another 12-week, and again, this does cover, it's a 12-week, because each of these little blocks is a week, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'd like to see another 12-week block, because this one no longer applies. We're through this, right? Master Windu was here, so we're here. I would like to see the next 12-week block of era battles, because that will play a factor in understanding how important it could be, that how much of Mace Windu and Depa could I get back if I spent them. Because I do think that will play a role for some people, those who maybe aren't spending that money but are close enough to the end game. If you're in the mid game, how this needs to, I think, factor into your decision making is the shards. So we talked a lot about the relics, but what about the shards? There's a lot of free shards at play here. Your shards that you're going to get for Depa and Temple Guard and Scorch, and you then moving to the pirates, right? It's really a situation where it's only worth getting those characters if you're chasing Mace, if you're chasing the pirates, because otherwise you're spending crystals. But if you're not going to actively chase what's coming next, that value might not be there. And that was something I said was, hey, listen, you only want to do this if you're trying to chase the pirates, if you're trying to get that stuff, because otherwise it's not like the era battles are going to be a monthly thing where you're going to get tier 1 and tier 2. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen that way. And so I think from a free-to-play perspective, I look at this and say, hey, they're really good. They're going to get you free shards. But if you're not intending to chase, it's not worth making that next investment. And I think on the flip side of that, it's also for those of you who are going to be chasing, is it worth trying to get to those later tiers for only a handful of times? And I think where I'm going to look at this is if I was planning to take the characters to Relic 9 already, like the Dark Side clones, sure. I was willing to do that already, and now I'm just going to get a benefit for it. Jedi Vanguard, I really wasn't anticipating taking to Relic 9, and I don't know that I can stomach 3 additional Relic 9s. Not just from a, gear perspective, but from the signal data, right? That's 100 blue signal data per Jedi Vanguard that I'm taking away from my Hondo farm. I mean, that's a lot. And as someone who prides himself on being able to be competitive and do more with less, era battles sort of, maybe need to take a back seat for me that, hey, I could get a nice rebate here, but I'm going to be, months behind on Hondo because I spent all these extra resources to try to get to an era battle that may or may not help me. So I did want to kind of discuss this a little bit. I'm curious what you guys think, because even if you are free to play, and I know there's a lot of endgame free to plays who maybe this could be a factor for, but I think even if you're in the middle part of the game, where I think these era battles need to, don't get sucked into thinking, oh, it's a great return. It's only great if you were already going to spend those resources. Otherwise, I think the shards are the way to go, right? Bare minimum do tier 1. Tier 2 if we're chasing, you're chasing the units, you're trying to get there. But I wanted to talk through this a little bit, kind of throw at the end of the account update, because it is something that I'm having to wrestle with on my account. I recognize that I am in a position where certain things can happen, but then I have to adjust maybe how I'm chasing other things. And that comes into play with, okay, how am I getting my signal data? Which that's a whole other topic that I need to, maybe we need to talk about on signal data being just this huge problem in the game. But anyway, like, subscribe, comment. Love you all. May the force be with you. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.